Hi, and welcome to The Leader's Edge. I'm Emily Chiwa, and Georgia Donaldson is with me as the co-host here on this podcast. We are leadership coaches, and we have a mission to help you sharpen your competitive advantage and make a difference and impact in your community, in your company, in your life. So today we have with us Kairon Serrette, and Georgia is hi Kairon, and Georgia is going to introduce him shortly, properly, and we're going to be talking about what sport. I said sport teaches us about emotional intelligence. So I hope you stay on with us to understand what's the linkage between sport
Yeah.
and EQ, and why is OEI corrected, and why is that even important for you as a leader. So I think emotional intelligence is one of those things that we've been bandying about this term for years, but are we really using it, and how aware are we about the term emotional intelligence? How much awareness do we have about our own emotions? I think a lot of studies say like most of us can say five emotions, right? And after that, we either happy, sad, mad, one of those, or we're just good. We always just, are you good?
Good day.
Not good, right? But we're good. So one is the self-awareness and the personal competencies that goes with that. The other side is the social competencies. And to be leaders, obviously, in a world where yes, there's so much tech, but there's also so much people, right? So many people issues to deal with. So on a scale of 1 to 10, because I like to ask you guys this awareness question to start with, how competent do you think you are in the emotional awareness arena? Are you at 10 where you feel like, wow, I have it, I'm it, or
Yeah.
somewhere in between, and you could probably improve it. So with that, I'll have Georgia introduce our lovely guest.
Wonderful. Thank you, Emily. We are here again on a Monday, and we have this wonderful guest with us, and he's Kairon Serrette. And who is Kairon? Kairon is a multifaceted guy. Let's talk about him. He's a sports executive and a partnership strategist with over 15 years of experience. His face doesn't show that, right? And he has that experience in leading high impact initiatives across the Caribbean region and also in this global sporting industry. So when you talk about Olympic campaigns, he has been involved in Olympic campaigns, at least three of them from 2012 to 2021. And he has been managing in that sphere for quite a while. So Kyron is going to be talking to us about sport. He's going to be talking to us about emotional intelligence. We usually don't put those two together, not in the same sentence most times. So Kyron, tell us, why are you so passionate about emotional intelligence and in the arena of sports?
Yes.
So hi Emily, hi Georgia. Thanks for having me. And some years ago, and Emily kept correcting herself with the emotional quotient and emotional intelligence. I think that's what sparked my interest many years ago. I read an article on EQ, and I thought I said, wow, look at all of these different traits they're describing in terms of how one should basically interact with the environment and emotionally. And ever since that time, I've paid particular attention to how your emotions impact how you interact, and for the purposes of this podcast, and how you lead, right? If you are not in control generally, or understand the cues that will take you from a balanced state to imbalanced state, because at the end of the day we are all human beings, we are not robots. Things will impact us. You fall victim to thoughts and what you think a perception might be, and you might confirm it in your brain that this is what's happening, and then your emotions are impacted, and then that impacts how you deal with people, and it's a spillover effect. So just generally understanding that, when you deal with people in complex environments, they often say, the work is easy, it's dealing with the people is the exciting part, and
Yeah.
over my 15 years experience, it's crazy to say, I've seen that more and more and manifest itself in different ways. So I do feel very strongly about it, and I think that it is one of those core. I wouldn't even call it a soft skill. I think it's one of those core skills that like leaders must have if they want to be successful.
You
Yeah.
know what? You know what, Emily and Karen. When I think of footballers, and I watch them on the field, and the game ends, and they usually say the most emotionally smart one is the one you don't know whether he won or lost, because he's not angry if he lost, and
Yeah.
he's over the moon if he won. But he's tempered. What do you think about that? The emotional intelligence of a player who just came off the field.
I think that there's perspectives because okay,
Yeah.
so you mentioned football.
Yes.
I'm an Arsenal fan. Arsenal just
Ah. Oh my
yeah,
word.
they just won the Premier League, and I looked at some of the games coming down to just before they actually were crowned the champions,
Mm-hmm.
and the emotion that they exhibited at the end of it. One of the pundits made a comment, because you're watching match and then you listen to the pundits after, and it's like, why are they behaving like they won the premiership? And this was some matches ago. But one of the other perspectives that was offered was that, listen, this achieving this goal means so much to these guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
From a leadership standpoint, their coach, Mikel Arteta, him and how he's able to understand the players, motivate them, and keep them all towards and focus on this common goal of getting their first championships in 20, I think 22 years, right?
Wow.
Wow.
His ability to do that. I mean, obviously supported by a structure, but to
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
get to each player, to speak to each player, to understand what motivates them, to help them understand what their role is in the bigger picture. Because you'd find, especially in football and team sports, right, you'll find a situation where, I might be a striker, right, or a midfielder, but the coach might say, okay, no, today I need you to play left back or right back or center in defense,
Yeah.
and in situations like that, it's not about, well, that's not my preferred position. It's
Mm-hmm.
what is important for the team right now, and putting your heart and soul into it, letting that show on the field with your other team members, because you're focused on the greater good, which in this case is either winning that match or winning a championship. So just coming back to the emotion part, and you started
Yes.
off with football. I think it's to me, showing nothing is wrong with showing emotion,
Mm-hmm.
right? Especially when you've invested in the activity. Nothing is wrong with showing emotion. I think the challenge comes in when I'll say under the negative side of emotion, and you don't
Yes.
control it.
When it's
I think that
misplaced,
is where
not
yeah, I think that's where
controlled.
the
Yeah.
I think that's where the challenge comes in. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, that's one of the things that I love about sports. So I mean, I'm thinking football. I'm even thinking like tennis, but like when the chips are down,
Mm-hmm.
you really see the character of the
Yes.
player on the field
Yes.
or the team, right? The way they respond, whether their
Mm-hmm.
heads full, their shoulders drop, the body language, but also, whether they dig deep,
Mm-hmm.
recover. And so I love that that you see play out
Yes.
in sports all the time, because I feel like that is life. That is life
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
there.
No, it is. It is. And I mean, you say that is life, and you laugh. And my thing about sport, and you say emotional intelligence and sport, and yes, okay, I'm primarily involved in sport, but I feel like the lessons, they transcend industries. I think things that
Yes.
you would see in sport. If you speak to a high level, it could be a CFO in the biggest financial institution. And they
Mhm.
will have situations that will call upon the same emotions, the same competencies that they need to manage, that they need to,
Yes.
because at the end of the day, you need to make a decision, right? You may have a team that is relying on you to provide sober leadership. You might be dealing with external pressures. Your CEO might be coming at you for a solution to this problem, and you now
Right.
have to take all these stimuli, manage it, provide leadership, and come with a solution. And it's difficult. And depending on where you are and which industry you are, those high pressure situations might be very regular and very frequent. How do you come down?
Right.
How do you get a chance to, take it all in and say, you know what? This I need to be in a balanced state for me to really be the leader that people need me to be. So again, you can see that in in the financial services as well as you could see it in sports. And if you go back to the
Translates.
Yeah,
you
Yeah,
know,
it translates across
you know,
the board.
every game was a final, more or less, for Arsenal in the last couple of games because they needed to win because Manchester City was
uh-huh.
there. There's that constant pressure, right? But
Pressure.
you
Right.
can't block the pressure because there are people looking to you for
Mm-hmm.
that leadership. They're looking to you for that motivation, and they feed off of that. They feed off of that energy. If
Mm-hmm.
that energy is corrupted because you can't deal with the external stimuli, balance, and then project positivity, it's going to impact. I don't want to use the word infect, but it impacts negatively those who are looking to you for that guidance.
Well,
That's
I think
that's
it can infect as well because I think emotions are contagious. So
yes.
if we allow ourselves, as you say, to fall,
Mm-hmm.
and if people are looking to you for leadership, and you can't figure out how to regulate and
Regulate, yeah.
get to that calmer state to say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, the chips are down, but this is what we're going to do, and be decisive and have those capabilities about you. And it has to be real, right? It can't be pretend. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes you pretend, but I mean, like really learn how to manage yourself so that your team can follow suit, right? They
Mm-hmm.
take from you. So I think that is so important. I mean, you mentioned so many other things too, Georgia. He mentioned when he talked about Arsenal in the beginning,
Yes.
understanding your team, understanding what motivates them,
Mm-hmm.
understanding how to speak to them. So emotional intelligence is not just about understanding yourself and being able to regulate yourself, but also
Mm-hmm.
being able to read the room and read the
That,
Yeah,
people.
that is it. Yeah.
yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
happy you mentioned that because, Karen, I'm thinking of sports, and they're always in the public eye. So it's so important for them to be aware of themselves, so important for them to be able to regulate and also talk about their social skills and motivation. In your world, do you see the leadership of some of these teams talking to their team players, their members, about this kind of stuff? How they need to
yeah.
prepare, regulate, manage, and their social skills and motivation.
Yeah, no, no, for sure, definitely.
Mhm.
And so one of my experiences was dealing with an athlete as a manager for Olympic sailor Andrew Lewis for many years. One
Ah,
of the best experiences, and we've become
yes.
very close. We're good friends now. But in terms of working with him and seeing him develop, as a young athlete, and then maturing through the sport,
Mhm.
um, it, I can't sail, right? But I was the manager behind it, but being able to guide and say, "Look, listen, they're gonna have difficult times.
Mhm.
It's okay to cry. It's okay to be upset, but it's how do you now allow yourself that chance to get those emotions out and then recenter,
Yeah.
right? And it's in management as well, using management and leadership interchangeably now when they
Mm-hmm.
deal with athletes. It's important not to be too overpowering with your perspective because a lot of those times the athlete or the team, they're just looking for support. They're looking for a listening ear so that they could then now find themselves. I think Emily made a comment about understanding yourself within it. Sometimes that's what your role is. That's how you lead in terms of just being listening, to be an active listener or to engage in active listening with the team members or the athlete, or in my case it was the athlete, so that then you can know how you could lend some assistance. Maybe it's just to stay quiet and help them feel that calm, and then they will now say okay, because what you'll find with elite athletes as well, they lead for a reason, right? They have this higher level functioning that you don't want to get in their way when this is the stars align for them and they need to hit go. What you
That's
can
it.
do as a guide in management leadership is understand, well, listen, yes, they're still human. They may need that quiet, that calm, right? They might
Mhm.
need that active listening, so then that will help them center so that they can go back to being elite.
Right.
So all that to say, yes, it all ties in terms of being able to now understand when they're in that space, saying, okay, yes, I know, we know that this is how you feel, but this is how you should, once you get back to that space that you need to be in, this is how you should, manage moving forward, right? And not let things get the better or the best of you.
Yeah.
Right. And Emily, that's where they need coaches like us in the frame that we coach, and not talking about coaching in the sport, but coaching in their being, in their behavior. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good, Karen. Yes, and not getting in their way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Making
yeah.
sure they experience the emotions, but how do they regulate
Yeah,
themselves?
yeah, and I think it's also important that they know it's okay to feel the emotion, right?
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with it. Feel the emotion, you express the emotion, but it's you give yourself that opportunity to feel emotion, express it, but you don't dwell in it because
Exactly.
after a time it becomes counterproductive, right?
That's
If you can't push past it, then it's not going to impact your behavior. It's going to impact your motivation. It's going to impact you getting back to that state that's going to allow you to perform.
Yeah.
And again, we're saying this with sport as in the context for this
Well, yeah.
conversation, realizing that it could apply anywhere.
it
Sport
cuts
is the analogy, but it applies everywhere because I think we all perform optimally. And I think science proves this when we are in a peak emotional state.
yes.
And there are lots of people, and there is science behind it, how to get yourself into a peak state. And whether you are in business, in sport, in any arena, getting
Yeah.
yourself in that peak state is what actually makes a difference
Yeah.
in terms of how you respond to
Mhm.
whatever
Yeah.
is thrown.
Whatever stimulus, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yeah.
I think unfortunately we are like at the time where we need to get to closing. George,
Wow.
Yes.
time goes.
Karen, I don't know. What are you going to say to people now to let them leave with something that they can do, feel, hear? What is it? I don't know. Tell us how you're closing.
Yeah, and I would say, simple bit of advice, understanding your emotions, what triggers you, what gets you to that state that upsets your balance. And I think one of these simple things we could do is just understand our cues. It could be, the way you might say my blood pressure rising, but there's certain things that will change, that will trigger internally, that you're going to get to a state, because as leaders we've been in that state before. I think
Yes.
one thing that we could do is start noticing those cues, and once we recognize it, saying, you know what, I need to take a step back. Let me take a step back.
Love
Let
that.
me collect, because I know how this could end up if I don't allow
Yes.
myself to. So
Yeah.
looking for the cues
Love
that
that.
that kind of give you the signal that you're going to this place that you don't want to be in. I think
Yes.
that's one of the things that generally we could look at working on.
That's an excellent tip. Excellent tip. Emily, over to you to wrap.
Yeah, so I love that. And I love that we're keeping it simple.
Yes.
So we're giving you one call to action.
Yes.
Just look at your cues.
Yeah, look at your cues.
Yeah, and just as Kairon said, when the blood pressure is rising, whatever, you're starting to see red or whatever it is.
Fumes coming from your ears.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're feeling like the fumes coming out. That might be the time to take a breath, take
Yes.
a walk,
Yeah.
cool down. Because whatever you say after that, it might take a long time to recover, or it might actually be the best thing you ever said. But it all depends on how you're able to regulate yourself in that
That's it.
moment and decide how you're going to respond,
Wonderful.
or whether you're going to react.
Yeah.
Or whether you're going to react. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
React or
Exactly.
respond. Thank you. Thank you,
So-
Karen. It was such a pleasure.
It
Yeah, that
was
was nice.
such
It was
a
nice.
pleasure. Yes, talking to
Thank
you.
you for
and
having me.
Yeah, and I think it would be interesting for people to think about sport as an analogy for leadership. I love to look at sport just for that, because I am a nerd when it comes to leading. And remember, leadership is not just the person at the top. We're all leading. So whatever desk or whatever position you are in, you can show your leadership skill and your character as part of the team, right?
Yes.
So thank
Yes.
you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
That's Arsenal. I'm a wagon. I'll
Yes.
jump on that wagon today. Usually I'm on the man you wagon, but I'll jump on that wagon today. I have no shame. All
Thank
right.
you. Have a good day, everyone.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.